This video we're going to take one of these, actually this elephant, and we're going to plop it right here into the street corner of this image. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab, we're going to unlock this layer, which I've already done, grab this move tool, and click and drag it over into this image. Plop it right there. Okay, now let's zoom in here, and we're going to start with the selection. Selection is typically one of the harder steps of this whole process. Getting a good selection is important. So I've grabbed what's called the magnetic lasso tool, and I'm just going to start kind of going around the elephant. And hopefully it does a good job. It'll do a good job for most of it. Let's go back. Okay. All right, so here's our selection. It's obviously not very good. If we did a Command J and then turned off that layer, you would see how we did. And you can see here I've got too much, not enough down in the feet, and not enough on the trunk. So let's undo that step. Just push Command Z to go back until I get my selection. So now let's start to go in there with a different tool and see if we can do a better job with the selection. So now I'm going to grab the Polygon Lasso tool. And right here, it's too much. So I can see here, there's a little plus on the bottom of that Polygon tool right here on my cursor. If I hold down the Option key, it turns to a minus. So I'm going to go right there. I'm going to say, I don't want this part of the selection. So get rid of all of that, and then boom, it's back there. So now I want a little bit more of this. Okay, and actually we can also do this tool, which is sort of an auto detection tool. What's it called? It's called the quick selection tool. All right, so let's start with the quick selection tool. This also has the same thing. If I hold down Option, I get the minus, so we can go over here and see if we can get it to better select that edge. Okay, this seems fine. Maybe get rid of that little spot right there. We can cut off parts of the elephant, that's okay. But what we don't want is any of the background. So like, for example, the tail, I don't necessarily need the tail, it's a hard selection. So we can just add that much if we want. I'm still doing the subtraction. Okay, subtract right there. All right, so the foot is a little bit more difficult. So I think the line is right around here. So I'm going to push the subtract and see how it does. It's too close to the ground color, so it's going to be difficult for it too. So actually I'm going to, I can do the magnetic tool and see if it does a better job. Okay, that did okay. Let's see if I can subtract here. I'm going to go in here with the polygon and subtract this little bit, which looks like the edge of his toenails. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. We'll find out later. Let's go back over here to the quick select. Polygon. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to push Command J. Let's turn this layer off. Command J, just to get an idea of how our selection is. This actually looks pretty good. I don't see any halos or extra colors. This does not look good down here, so I'm going to go back and redo that, this part. And I'll just do it with this tool here. So I'm going to subtract. Okay, that will probably look better. Okay, let's do a Command J again. Turn it off. That line looks better now. Feet look fine. It looks a little weird right there, but that will be covered in shadow. All right, this looks pretty good. So now let's drag that layer down to the bottom and turn this back on. First thing I'm going to do is flip this photo. So I'm going to go to Edit and Transform, Flip horizontally. And then I'm going to go into Free Transform. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I want to put the foot on that white sidewalk part. So I think that'll be kind of fun. Okay. I think that's about right. All right, so I'll plop them right there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is start to add some shadows. So I'm going to grab my brush tool. I'm going to add in a layer, extra layer. And I'm just going to, I can see here that the shadow's coming down from this direction based on what this guy is. And you can see here that it's dark right under his foot. So there's a primary shadow right there, right here, which I'll need to make. Same thing right there. And then it sort of diffuses out over here. So we're going to do something like this, something the same. So let's make a fairly large brush. And we'll just start to paint. And notice I'm on 100% opacity because I want all of the brush to be the same. So I don't want to like click multiple times and have the brush increase over that. We'll do those on different layers. Maybe a little bit on the sidewalk here. Okay, and then, so I'm going to not, well, maybe I'll add a little bit. Something like this. Okay, and then let's bring the opacity way down. Okay, and then maybe I'll add a layer mask on this, and I'll do a gradient so that it will diffuse over time. Something like that, and we'll just kind of add it right there. Maybe start way over here. And maybe let's bring down that opacity to 28%. There we go. That looks better. Okay, so now it's diffused. You can see here the layer mask just looks like this. And so that's our primary shadow. Our secondary shadow, we'll start to do, we might even do 3 shadows, but we'll do another one here. And then I'm going to use the gradient tool again, but I'm going to use a radial one. And we're going to do a dark to foreground. And we'll bring this up all the way. Okay, and then I'm going to do a free transform on just this. Let's break the 2. Okay, that didn't work. So if I hold down, I'm holding down Shift right now. And I can start to add this below. I don't want to add any over here, maybe just a hair, but most of it should be right underneath that foot. And if we want to, we can sort of warp it around so that it goes under both feet. Okay, and it needs a layer mask because you can see that harsh line right there. So let's go and start to paint some of that out. Bring the opacity down. Okay, so far so good. It's starting to look like it's in that spot. I'm going to add another layer. I'm going to do one right under the trunk. So, and actually we might be able to just do this. Now let's do it with the gradient. I think it's smarter. Let's do one like this. Free transform. Hold down Shift. And plop it right there. Really pull that one out because it's a trunk. And then make sure it's off to the left of it because it's not touching the ground. At least I'm not going to try and make it touch the ground. And the dark part's now over here, which we don't want. So maybe I'll move this over and then we'll use a layer mask to clean it up a bit. So brush tool, start getting rid of it. Move it down a little bit. Okay, this is looking pretty good. Oops, let's undo that one. And there's some stuff over here. Not too bad. I'm going to bring down that opacity on the layer overall. Okay, and it's kind of diffused this way. All right, let's add another shadow, one that goes kind of right at its feet. And I'm just going to use my brush tool for this one. This one I'm going to drag below the elephant. In fact, they might all want to be below the elephant. Let's just drag the elephant on top of this stack. Okay, so yeah, that makes more sense. So, and then we'll darken this up later. All right, so then I'm just going to draw right underneath the elephant, just to kind of land it. Not too much, though. Making sure that most of it's on this left-hand side. Okay, so now let's start to burn and dodge on the elephant itself. So we're going to burn. We'll start to bring it down. And I think maybe at the start, we will bring the brightness down. So we'll click the brightness, make sure it goes only to this layer. And we're going to bring the brightness down. So see it. I think the brightness can come quite a bit down. That will help with the legs. Because this building's in front of it, I'm going to add the contrast up a little bit because this is a super contrasty photo. And then we can go back, and I'm going to dodge a little bit. So we'll start to dodge, which will brighten up some of those spots. I'm looking at some of these whites. These are super blown out. There's a lot of blowouts on this, so I would think that the editing of the elephant would mean that the trunk and the tusks are a bit brighter. Let's bring down this exposure. And then bringing light into this area, because the eye loves contrast, it will help deter us from some of these other spots. And it makes sense that this is darker. Let's bring up the knee a little bit. I would think that maybe this side of the foot is a little bit brighter. Trunk all the way at the bottom. Okay, and then let's dodge. Sorry, burn. I would think that this would be a little bit darker. Oh, this is set to desaturate. I don't want to do that. Let's go back a couple steps. Oh, I'm on a sponge tool. That's why. I don't want to be on a sponge tool. Burn. There we go. And then let's dodge, maybe right there. This looks pretty good. The elephant looks like it's there. So there's let's put everything in a folder. Let's see here. All of these go in the group. So there's the before, there's the after. Looks pretty believable to me. So the last thing you might want to do is some color correction to the whole image. And the way I like to do this is a little bit cheating. Instead of trying to match the elephant to the scene or the scene to the elephant, I try and just do both at the same time. So I'm going to click a gradient tool. And if we click right there on the gradient itself, I like to click just the orange and purple. You're welcome to change these colors if you want to. Just double click right there and mess around. But if you remember, I don't know if you do, but Instagram used to have these filters where you can add all these effects and stuff like that. And then we just sort of bring it down to like a 5 or a 6. And then it's got this cool little faded, and it's been applied to both of them, and therefore it's fairly easy to match the colors at the same time. That might even be too much. And that's it.